Hello and welcome back to Planet 40k. Today we're going to be carrying on with our reviews within the Spacewolves Supplement, discussing Logan Grimnar with his Stormrider. So I'm sure a lot of you guys know that this guy gets memed quite a lot for looking like Santa on his sleigh, so I thought it'd be quite a good time to get his review done right now. So Logan Grimnar on his Stormrider comes in at 9 power level or 180 points. If you took him without the Stormrider, then he would be 8 power at 155 points. So something to bear in mind throughout the video, to ask yourself at the end whether the extra 25 points has its value for buying the chariot or not. So as always, we start off with some keywords. So he's obviously got the Space Wolves keyword, he's a character, he's a chapter master, and he's got the chariot. So going from his stat line, he's got a 10-inch movement, weapon skill 2+, ballistic skill 2+, strength 4, toughness 6, wounds 14, attacks 5, leadership 9, and a 2+ save. So quite tidy stats there, really strong, and 14 wounds is a really good amount of wounds. So something here of note, he is a character but he is over 10 wounds, so that lookout sir rule will not be in effect. So this is something you need to consider when taking him with the Stormrider chariot, as without it, he's only 7 wounds, but that lookout sir does apply as he's on foot. So he's only got a toughness 4 on foot, and of course moves much slower at only 5-inch. You also need to bear in mind the size of the model for the aura buff ranges, and also the added attacks from the wolves from the chariot, which we'll go over later in the video. So anyway, these stats do get bracketed once he is damaged. The only thing that actually does get degraded is the movement. So this would describe the actual wolves that are pulling the chariot as being injured to the point where he goes right down to a movement of 4-inch. So going through his rules and abilities then. So he has the Angels of Death rule, which we went through this rule in a little bit of detail within the Hounds of Mordkai review. I'll put a link in the top right of the page for you to find that video, so check that out so you'll be able to see this rule in a bit more detail. It basically consists of 4 rules: and thou shalt know no fear, bolter discipline, shock assaults, and combat doctrines. The Space Wolves actually add to the Space Marine doctrines ability with an ability called Savage Fury, so any unmodified hit rolls of a 6 done in the assault doctrine will score an additional hit. He's also got Swift Hunters, which is where the unit can advance and still charge that turn. It also allows you an extra inch movement to pile in and consolidate, so that makes Mr. Grimnar pretty quick. So he's got the Space Wolves chapter tactics from the Marine Codex. So each time a model makes a melee attack, if charged or heroically intervened, then on that turn they're going to gain a +1 to the hit roll. This rule only really comes into effect if there's a -1 to hit modifier on him, as he's already hitting on 2s. So going into his more unique abilities, he's got the Belt of Rust, which is a 4+ in 1 save, making him a 2+4+. With 14 wounds, that's a lot of durability there. He's got the Chapter Master ability, so this is where you can select a core unit or character that is within 6 inches of Logan Grimnar in the command phase, and they get to reroll hits in all phases, so really nice. He's got the Rites of Battle aura, which is a 6-inch aura that allows core units to reroll 1s to hit. So a unit that's close by that wasn't selected for the Chapter Master ability can instead benefit from this. Then finally he has the High King of Fenris, so if Logan is your warlord, then he'll always be treated as if he's completed his deed associated with his warlord trait. So we may as well talk about his warlord trait next. So he's got a pre-built warlord trait, which is the Aura of Majesty. So this effectively adds 3 inches to his buffing abilities. Now the saga that links to this trait has the deed where you need to be within 6 inches of an objective which is outside of your deployment zone to pass this. So however, as we just mentioned, he has the High King of Fenris. So it treats Logan as if he's already done this. So he gains the Saga of Majesty ability, which is a 6-inch aura for core units to take advantage of. So any morale tests that were taken are now automatically passed for that unit. So a really long-winded way of saying he's got a 6-inch aura for core units to auto-pass morale. So that's his data sheet and his abilities covered. Now I want to talk about his weapons. So Logan comes stocked with a Storm Bolter, the Axe of Mordkai, and the Wolves come with the Flurry of the Teeth and Claws. So there's no extra options here due to him being a named character. So the Storm Bolter is a ranged 24-inch, rapid fire 2, strength 4, no AP and 1 damage. So it's quite a standard 40k weapon within the game. Now I personally wouldn't be firing this, as I'd be taking full advantage of your advance and charge ability, but he has got it if you need it. The Axe of Mordkai is a melee weapon that has 2 different profiles. So each time you make an attack with this weapon, select one of the profiles below. So the 2-handed variant of the weapon is strength times 2, making it a strength 8, minus 3 AP and 3 damage. Or you can opt to use the one-handed option, which is a strength plus 2, making it strength 6, minus 3 AP and 1 damage. But each time you use the one-handed option, you make 2 hit rolls instead of 1, so you double the attacks there. So this weapon is pretty awesome, as you've got both anti-horde and anti-elite / vehicle weapons here. So with the two-handed option, you've got a base attacks of 5 attacks. With shock assault, you'll be making that 6. Now if the Savage Fury kicks in with the assault doctrine, then on average you'll roll a single 6 out of the 6 attacks, which will give you another hit. Also out of the 6 attacks, on average you're going to miss one of those, so effectively you're still getting 6 hits. If you're using the one-handed option, then you simply double these figures, so you'll have 10 attacks to start with. Then with shock assault you're going to get another 2, as each attack is making 2 hit rolls. That gives you 12 attacks. 2 on average are going to miss, rolling 1s, and 2 of which are going to get 6s to create more attacks. So on average you're going to get 12 hits. So wounding with the two-handed option, you'll be at strength 8. Against toughness 4 or less you're only going to need 2, so you should be getting about 5 of those dice through there. Against toughness 5, 6 and 7 you're going to need 3s. So on average you're going to get 4 through there. And against toughness 8 you're requiring 4s, so only 3 are going to get through there. Against toughness 9 right up to toughness 15 you're going to need 5s, which is only going to get you 2 on average there. That minus 3 AP is all you need to either put models on a really unreliable save or an in-bun save. Then 3 damage each is pretty brutal. Doing the same with the one-handed variant, 12 hits at strength 6, wounding toughness 3s on 2s results in 10 wounds on average. Against toughness 4 and 5 you're going to require 3s, so about 8 will go through there. Toughness 6 requires 4s, so 6 there. Then toughness 7 right up to toughness 11 needs 5s to wound, so approximately 4 are going to get through there. So looking at both options, when you're fighting toughness 3 models, then 100% go for the one-handed option, as you're purely going for lots of attacks. They're not going to have a save and most likely will only have 1 wound. Toughness 4 can be tricky, it depends on who you're against. I mean, if it's a 2-wounded marine, then the single-handed weapon isn't enough, as you're going to spend twice as many wounds to kill a single model. So for example, in the case of a 2-wound space marine using the one-handed weapon, you will get 8 wounds through on average, but you're going to spend 2 wounds per model, so only killing 4 at best. Whereas if you use the two-handed option, on average you're going to get 5 through, and each one of those is going to clear a model, so you're going to have 5 dead marines instead of 4. Now if they were single wound models, then yes, I would just use the one-handed weapon. Anything more than a toughness 5 is most likely going to require the two-handed axe to reliably wound and then do the right damage to it. Then what a lot of Spacewolf players tend to forget here is the wolves themselves, which also fight. They've got 6 attacks here, which are pretty good. So flurry of teeth and claws, a strength +1 making you strength 5, minus 2 AP and 1 damage. 6 attacks here, hitting on 2s, but again making 1 back in the assault doctrine will mean 6 hits. Now so far I've assumed you're in the assault doctrine, but if you did get into combat a little early and you're not in the assault doctrine, then you just have to remove 1 hit from the maths I've done here. 6 hits all at strength 5 are going to do a nice bit of extra damage, especially against infantry models trying to tag you down, so don't forget to use them. Minus 2 AP as well is pretty reliable. Okay, as for stratagems then, you've got Savage Strike for 1 CP, allows you to add 1 to your wounds roll if you charge this turn, so especially good against toughness 5 right up to toughness 7 models now, as you'll be wounding them on 2s with your two-handed axe. Relentless Assault for 1 CP doubles your consolidation move to a 6-inch move, which is pretty strong, especially while running up against the next target to advance and charge again. So overall, a real solid HQ option, mainly interacts with Thunderwolf Cavalry for all of those buffs due to them being a core unit, so granting them rerolls to hit every hit is always nice. So he's definitely the front line of your army, especially with his advance and charge ability. He hits pretty hard too, no matter who the opponent is. He's going to soak up a lot of firepower, so acts very much like a distraction Khan effects, and this will aid the rest of your army to either keep them alive for a turn or 2 longer, or just get them up the board onto objectives, or getting them into charge range for their own targets. There is one fear here of giving up Slay the Warlord as a secondary objective, which is going to be a slight issue here because he will be targeted and will probably die. Other issues include him not either being a vehicle, a cavalry or an infantry model, so a lot of stratagems and buffs cannot be applied to him. There's a lot of stratagems in particular that work well with cavalry units. It also means tech marines can't heal him due to him not being a vehicle, and the same applies to apothecaries. Now the thing I asked you at the very start of the video is whether the 25 points was value for the chariot or not. So it's actually quite a tricky question. So for the pros of having it, it's only 25 points, you're moving so much quicker, you're being able to keep up with other core wolf units such as your Thunderwolves, which is great, you're much tougher and you have double the amount of wounds. You also have that extra 6 attacks with the walls in front. You've also got a larger footprint, which is really going to help giving off buffs and holding down aura abilities. Now the cons are you lose that Lookout Sir rule, which means turn 1 you placed a huge target on his back, especially if your opponent is savvy enough to realise that Slay the Warlord is very doable and doable quite early. You lose a host of different options from the stratagems and buffs, whether it's from the book or the Space Marine Codex. So to conclude on the matter, it's more of a question of your playstyle and what else is in your list. If your playstyle is to run forward and smash into things early, then yeah, go for it. It's worth it, you aid your army massively. But if you're more reserved and maybe want to be playing for points and objectives, then maybe not so. Especially when you've also got access to other frontline units within the book that can hit just as hard, if not harder. Now you could kind of do both by purchasing the chariot, but not go rushing out so quickly, so you're retaining all those extra stats but being a little bit more reserved. But that loss of the Lookout Sir rule is really going to squander any chance of him staying alive, so it's either you charge forward with him or you have him on foot. So that then creates another issue, which is as soon as you do select which option to use, your opponent will already have a rough idea of what your game plan is. Of course, if you've got the chariot, then they'll know you're going to be rushing forward as soon as you can. And if you're on foot, they'll know you're not going to be rushing forward as soon as you can, because you would have chosen the chariot if you were. Now there is the option of putting him into strategic reserves for a command point, but obviously he's not going to be coming in till turn 2 at the very least, and you could get the Thunderwolf Cavalry to meet him there, I suppose. It's not a bad way of doing it. So as for his rating, I mean, comparing him to other HQ units within the supplement, I'm going to be giving Logan Grimnar on the Stormrider a Planet 40k rating of 3.5 out of 5. The lack of Lookout Sir really does scare me slightly, and the game plan may as well be stuck on your forehead from the off. He's great at a lot of things he does, but running with the wolves is a mere distraction. I mean, it will work every time and your Thunderwolf Cavalry will remain intact and maybe even win you the game, but Logan will always be the fall guy. So it's then a case of how long will he last in the game, because once he's dead, those buffs are also gone, and then that's 180 points to distract your opponent out the window. Now this rating may be a tad harsh. I mean, I also think there's better options in the book. I mean, regular Wolf Lords on Wolves with extra relics, or Arjak deep striking in with a 3+ in 1 save, for example. Anyway, that's my take. Let me know yours below. If you would like to see any more Space Wolves ratings, smash that thumbs up below and remember to subscribe if you're new. Thank you all for watching and I'll see you in the next one.